And the next project that I'm working on is putting the OSB board on the walls. And to do that, I'm going to use the laser to shoot my vertical and my horizontal lines, because this first piece that I'm going to install right here is the most important. If we don't get that first piece aligned vertically, which is plumb, or level horizontally, then it will throw off the rest of the wall. So with the option of having that crosshair, what I'll do is bring my line up to where the top of my OSB board would be sitting, and then make sure that the vertical portion of the board, which is going to be 4 foot this way and 8 foot that way, make sure that it's aligned, and we can nail in the first board, the second board, and the third board. Then we'll just go down the wall. I'm going to clamp this down, and to cut this 4 foot across, you can use a 4 foot level or something larger, but on my saw, we have 1.5 inches from the blade over to have this ride against this as a track. So what I'm doing is I'm going to grab a measurement here, and then I'm going to add 1.5 inches to it, and then I'm going to bring this back, set it down, clamp it down, then bring my saw in and make a straight cut. And then once you get the board put up and tacked in a spot, you can use the laser to find the stud, and you don't have to mark the bottom of the concrete. So you can see it goes straight up in the center of that stud all the way up. We know exactly where to nail all the way down. All I have to do is just grab that laser, move it over 16 inches, makes my job a lot faster. On this next board, we have 2 plugs, one here, one down there, that fall in our 8 foot span. So we're gonna have to find the measurement for this plug and that plug, and I'll show you guys how I'm doing that. And the first thing you wanna do before taking any covers off is turn off the electricity. I'm gonna hit the GFCI, then I'm gonna hit the breakers, and come back and check the GFCI, and actually do a further test and check the plug itself. Because you do not wanna get in that plug and put your tape measure down in those live wires and get electrocuted. So how I'm gonna find the measurement for this is to butt this against that board, and then I'll take off 1/8 of an inch to actually get the measurement. So I want to do it from the top, which is 2.5. So we're going to use 2 3/8 for that, and then 2 3/8 for that. I'm going to write it right here. So now we know that's our distance from that board to here. And then from the top, we're going to use our laser line that is level over here to here, and then we're going to measure from here down to this, and then from here down to that, and it's going to give us our measurements. So our first measurement will be 3 3/8. We'll just write it right here. We'll come down to the bottom. Now we're at 7 5/16 down here. 2 3/8 to this side of the box. Now we need to get the distance to this side of the box. 4 5/8. We'll write it right here. There's our measurements for the first box we need to translate to our other OSB board. And this plug here will be a little bit trickier because we've got a longer run, but all you do is the same thing. Just gonna be bigger numbers. Run it all the way down to your board. This is 90.5, and you don't have to go back down and measure. Just measure your box, which is 2 1/8, and add that to it, which is gonna be 92 5/8. Then from the top, we'll do the same thing. I'll just butt it against the top of it. That's 2 3/4. And that's 7 3/4. And I just write it on the insulation. It's fine, it's gonna be covered. Now that we have our measurements, I'm gonna head over to the board and transfer those numbers onto the OSB. And to do that, we need to determine what is gonna be the face and the backing of the board. So this is our face because we're using the smooth side. Now we need to decide what's going to be the top part and the bottom part. We're going to use this as the top part of the board, so it will set up against the wall, that to the floor, this up. So now we know that this is the top corner of the first plug. So now we need to transfer those numbers. So we know our first measure was 2 3/8. So you want to make a mark like that. And then you want to come on down here just a little bit further, 2 3/8, and mark our other one, 4 5/8, and 4 5/8. So we know our box is going to fall right into that on that corner. And the measurement from the top was 3 3/8. And all I'm doing is give me 2 lines so I can set a square up on it. And the bottom of the box was 7 5/16. Now we have the shape of our box here. Now we want to make sure that we're making our lines straight. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use this old rusty framing square I have. And for this marking, I can use a Sharpie because I'm going to cut it out. I didn't want to use a Sharpie earlier because if I miss a mark, painting a Sharpie is almost impossible. So now that we have our mark, this is the top, this is the bottom. I'm just going to run my lines. Then I'm going to grab my other line. And all these corners are square on this board from the factory. Square enough that you can make these type of markings. And we want to cut that out. And I'm not going to bore you with doing that one, but you understand how to transfer those numbers on the wall to the board now. Now I'm just going to do the second plug. Now that we have both outlets transferred over, I'm going to cut them out. And to do that, I'm going to use an oscillating saw, but you got to have blades for it. This blade's starting to get dull. You can grab these off of Amazon for a 24 pack. I think I got this for 17 bucks. If you get this at a big box store, they're a lot more expensive. So I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested in that. And before you start to cut, make sure your board is clear or you'll cut into whatever material you have below the board. Now that we have our openings cut, let's get it over on the wall. And what we want to do at this point is just tack this in. We can see we're very close up there at the top. You could get something down here, give it a little bit of a lift like that. Push against it real tight and just get you a nail in here. Just to hold that up in spot. We can take that out later. Probably not going to. Probably just drive that on in. But we want to get it level down this side. And it's pretty close because it's resting on top of our box, but it does need to be lifted just a little bit. You want to make sure your box is where it's supposed to be. Tack this in. And all I'm doing is tacking enough so it will hold. Now we know where our studs are because we got the big post here and a stud every 16 inches down, and then another big post down here. Let's grab our nailer and get it nailed up. And in my application today, I'm going to be using the Milwaukee 18-volt framing nailer. You can see that we have our expansion gap. This will be covered with trim. On these ends, you want to nail every 6 inches. So on the ends of the perimeter, where you can, nail every 6 inches. And in the field itself, you'll want to nail here and then every 12 inches down. That's typically how you'll install OSB board. And that's how easy it is to install OSB board on your wall. It's not complicated, guys. If you need any help, be sure to leave me a comment in the description below. I'll respond to any questions you might have, so be sure to reach out and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And I do hope to see you in the next one.